You have not all moved on past the Titans game, of course, an opportunity to point out today that Joe Alt has been lost for the season. So that's a pretty big bummer. Obviously, a huge hit for the Chargers. You lose Slater in training camp to the patella, and now you've got Joe Alt out for the season with ankle surgery. And, that's kind of what this team was built around. I mean, it's what Jim Harbaugh was hired on. It's what he preached in his first bit of interviewing at the owners' meetings, at the combine, when he talked about offensive line. Real quick, pop the top on this. So I am going with what I and many others like to say, all the calories and none of the fun. I'm going zeros tonight for Stella. It's all right. It's not great. It's all right. I'll leave it at that. But, we got to do the beers because it's nighttime. And I was going to go with a Modelo, or I had a Ballast in there. I had a Sculpin, and I was like, you know what? I'm just tired, man. So I'm going to go with the zero alcohol tonight. Again, all the calories, none of the fun. I hope you don't mind. So, I'll start with this, right? Before we get to the game and some of the things we saw. So with the announcement that Joe Alt's out for the season, we obviously know Slater out for the season. You've got issues with your other tackles. Bobby Hart, who surprisingly had not made a start since 2021 and was playing at a pretty decent level, was solid. And we've talked about that with offensive line, right? You don't need spectacular. All you need is solid. And now it's down to Trey at right, who was your swing tackle, and Jamari Sawyer at left, where he, of course, replaced Rashawn Slater when he had his biceps injury, and played pretty well. I think he's better at tackle than he is guard. Just sort of the nuance and the it's just less physical. It's a little bit, you don't have to be as quick, and I think some of those things kind of caught up to Jamari in the guard position, where I think he's a little bit better playing at tackle. So to quickly kind of address what I can see a lot of the comments are already asking, can you go out and find an offensive lineman? It's really, really hard. It's very hard to find a starting caliber, let alone tackle, even an interior lineman, with the situation surrounding Mekhi Becton, who missed another game. Going into the game against Tennessee, he had only played 53% of the snaps. So basically, he's missed half the season thus far, and that number's only going to go up because he missed every snap in the Tennessee game. And I think it would be, I'm sure, do I know? I would assume the Chargers are looking for interior line help. And from what I've heard is, even for a one-year rental, teams are demanding a premium, and that's just hard. When you're talking about a veteran offensive lineman and you want a day two pick, it's very hard to kind of put together. And then now that you're talking about tackles, to see if you can build some depth there, I think what you're looking at is more of the Austin Deculus, Bobby Hart sort of situation. Can you, I think the biggest name out there in terms of, a guy that started at tackle, was kicked into guard. Could they crack a code with Evan Neal? But that you're talking about a top 10 pick. And I'm sure even though he's been inactive all year, the Giants are going to want something, some sort of premium for that, I think. So that's something just to keep an eye on, is like, don't get too excited and don't be like, what the heck is Joe Ortiz doing? We need an offensive lineman. They're really hard. If you look at today, I'm looking at the Pro Football Talk is right in front of me, and I guess you're saying that the shadow's super weird, so I apologize. Everybody, that's see if I can kind of get it to change a little bit. It's just because I have such a bright screen. Maybe if I dial that back a little bit. Is that better? Hopefully that's not as distracting. I'm looking at today, right? You have DreMont Joens, who just had a monster game against the Chargers. Felt like he was in the backfield all game. He gets traded to the Ravens for a fifth-round pick. You've got Jaelan Phillips, a former first-round pick, traded to the Eagles. The Chargers acquired Odafe Owe, who's now got 4 sacks for the team in 3 games. D lineman move. running backs move. Now, are they going to be, I think they're probably out there for a running back, especially after we heard Coach Harbaugh say that he did not envision Amarian Hampton coming back until after the bye week. So to me, that suggests that they're in the market for running back. They might have been able to grab, like, you look at the Titans, and I posted, I don't know if you guys saw it on my Instagram, but I posted the clip. I saw Odafe Oweh and Zeitler having a long talk after the game. And I saw a handful of guys go up to Zeitler after the game. You know, he's on a 1-year deal. He's 35 years old. He's in his 14th season. Last year he was in Detroit. The year, prior to that, guy's been in Baltimore for a number of years, so he's familiar with the system that Greg Roman runs. He knows how much they appreciate him. I'm sure he's a guy that could help dictate terms to the Titans of where he would want to go. And I think you combine that with Tony Pollard, and here's a Titans team that's now traded one of their best pass rushers, actually their best pass rusher. He's had at least 1 sack in each of his last 4 games in DreMont Joens. They've traded Roger McCreary, and I think that's a place where you can do some business. They're tearing that thing down and rebuilding it. So I think Tony Pollard, who still, although you kind of see him next to Tajay Spears and you notice there's a little bit of a fall off there. But I do think that that's maybe more of a realistic target than Breece Hall, who might cost you maybe even a 2 or a 3. Probably, I would say, I mean, he's not going to cost you a 2. Breece Hall could cost you a 3 if there's a demand, if there's a market out there. I think I think what the Chargers are probably doing with just 5 picks in 2026 is looking for teams that do pick swaps or teams that'll take 2027s is probably where they're at. And to me, I think for this team, this upcoming draft, I would say trading back is going to be a premium, or I shouldn't say a premium. Trading back is going to be on the forefront of what Joe Ortiz is looking to do to try to make up some of those picks, because I do think you probably need to invest a number of those selections up front on the offensive line and just try to build some depth there in that 2nd, 3rd, 4th round by amassing as many picks as you can, by maybe getting out of the 1st round and getting into those later rounds for guards and centers where a lot of these guys can go that end up performing at a pretty good level. You don't need a tackle. You're going to bank on the fact that Joe Alt and Rashawn Slater come back healthy, and, that kind of helps out. So, Titans game, good and bad. I think there was a mixed bag of that. You had a defense that picked up right where they left off against the Vikings. They allowed 6 points. You got 7 on a pick 6 from Herbert, which was, he'll tell you it was a bad throw. He just locked on to Keenan. I was watching that play back. Keenan was kind of drifting backwards as well, so maybe he could have helped that a little bit, but Cody Barton was just there waiting. And we were talking to some people earlier, and they were like, hey, Cody Barton, great guy. He's got the stats, but oof, there are some issues there. So the fact that he's the guy that picked it off and returned it for a touchdown for the 2nd consecutive week. And I think Coach made a great point. He's like, well, once that happens, you know what Herbert's going to do. And, yeah, Herbert went into beast mode after that. So, it's the second one. If you look at Herbert's interceptions, a lot of them are off tip passes. And I think that's a question of how much is on him, how much is on his protection. Those things are 50-50s. A lot of times people will focus on turnover-worthy plays versus actual interceptions because you have dropped interceptions out there as well. And, those, like, look at Cam Ward. Denzel Perriman had that thing right here, bounced off his face. That should have been a pick. So in terms of Herbert's pick 6, yeah, it wasn't great. That was a negative. I thought Jaret Patterson ran the ball really well. He ran hard, and he ran hard when it was needed late in the game when they had, the other 99.5-yard drive, longest drive of the season. That sequence, you have the Titans kind of moving the ball effectively. Defense bows up when they got to bow up in the red zone, force the turnover. They get the ball at the half-yard line, and they mix run and pass and just completely dice up the Titans on it. I think that was a 9, if I remember right. Let me go to play-by-play. I think that was a 9-minute drive, right? It was 9 minutes, 3 seconds, 15 plays, 99 yards. Gadsen was a big part of it. Man, he's becoming such a weapon, man. When you go back and watch just kind of the way he moves, how smooth he is, how good his hands are, how open he finds himself. But yeah, you look at this 9-minute drive, and you got the huge Herbert runs. He got his first rushing touchdown. John Hadel ties him for the most in Chargers history, 12 games with a passing and a rushing touchdown. And he took a ton of hits, man. Herbert got peppered back there. What did it say for QB hits? I have one. That doesn't seem right. He was sacked. I want to say he was sacked 5 times, if I remember right. Because DreMont, I think, had 2.5. Tremont had 1.5. Jihad Ward had 2.5. That's 4 right there. Yeah, they had 6. Cedric Ray had 1. And Sebastian Joseph Day was putting a number on Foster Sorrell in there. But some other positives. So let's just kind of rush through this, and then I want to get to you guys and gals and all your comments. Yeah, so Herbert using his legs, right? 9 carries for 57 yards. Coming into this one, I had it. Do I still have my boards up? I do. So coming into this one, Herbert was in his last 3, 14 rushes for 95 yards. His career high right now, 31 rushing yards per game. That's only going to go up after this game. So those are just the notes I put together for my play-by-play in that particular contest against Tennessee. He's going to rush for the most yards in his career. Clearly he enjoys it. He brought the pain on Sunday with that big first down. And I know the Instagram videos are out. And you got him doing this little thing. That was kind of funny. Something that if you listen to the games, you know, we've preached how important the sneak is for Herbert, and I'm not going to try to put a stupid name on it. I've tried to kind of rack my brain to think if there's anything, but I mean, I don't know. We'll figure something out. But Herbert heave, or I said thrust and Justin, and then started laughing at how ridiculous that was. And I was like, you know what? I'm calling it a freaking sneak. But man, he was so effective at that, at picking up those first downs. Defensively, Owe, just showing how huge that, like when you get Owe, Thule, it's been Tierre or Caldwell and Mack out there, man, that's been a fun group to watch, and it's really starting to heat up. And I'm anxious to see it against the Steelers. They're going to need it. You know, when you're going out there with Jamari Sawyer or Austin Deculus, you know, with essentially your third and your 4th, 5th, 6th tackle, and you got a Steelers team that is tied for 3rd in the league with 27 sacks, you better be bringing it on the other side, because their offensive line has been just okay this year, and we know that, you know, Rodgers obviously is a little bit limited in his mobility compared to prior seasons. So I'd want to hit him. I'd want to get him trying to get the ball out of his hands early, but they play with a ton of 2 tight end sets, and, you know, Washington is like another offensive lineman out there, so it's not easy to get to him. Just a couple thoughts there. Anything else? Let me just go through. So Herbert rushing, we got to that. Orande Gadsen, again, 5 for 68. Like, he's going to get out of this season if this keeps up, and he didn't even play the first 2 games as a top 5 tight end numbers-wise. I mean, he's going to be sniffing 750, 800 receiving yards at this point. What's he got? 453. Yeah, so a lot more than that maybe, as they've now played 9 games and they got 8 left, and he didn't even play the first 2. So, yeah, he's got 453. I mean, I won't be surprised, man. I know it sounds crazy. I will not be surprised if he gets north of 850. Just how much Herbert trusts him and leans into him. So you had Gaston, McConkey, Quinton. How about Quinton? There you go. Let's get to that real quick. The hands, man. That touchdown throw was incredible. That touchdown grab is just, think about Q's development, you know, and how he's now making those over-the-shoulder catches, how he's making those contested catches on the right sideline, had to do a pirouette, turn around, snatch the ball, tap his toes. Super impressive. I thought Trey Harris, I thought had the play of the game when you're trying to just milk clock and get out of there with a win, considering all the injury situation you had on that offensive line. And he's able to lunge backwards while his backside is on top of a defender to pick up that first down and effectively end the game. Just incredible. You got both Scott Matlock and Tucker Fisk. Fisk with his first reception of the year for 12 yards. Matlock with the first touchdown of his career. Reward those guys for all their blocking. Hard out to Daiyon. Just incredibly emotional to see him get that sack and sort of drop to his knees there, and then to see all the players and coaches on the sideline embrace him. I was very surprised that when I saw him on Sunday morning, on Saturday afternoon. So, just thoughts to he and his family, and just an incredible loss. And to be able to play through that and to lean on the family that he has with the Chargers, I hope helped him out in the face of what's just unthinkable. So outside of that, I think we hit it, right? Owe, awesome. Thule got that sack at the end of the half. He was lobbying the officials to make sure he picked that up. So that was pretty funny. And then special teams, got to figure it out, man. Got to figure that out, because I think I'm hoping you'll figure something out with the return of Josh Harris, because that's something that's really got to get figured out. We talked about snaps here, and man, that's just, you can't have that. 2 in the dirt, 1 high, 1 on a shoulder, and it's just been week after week. So here we go. I think that's good. Let's get to you, the people. Our favorite part. And by the way, one more thing. Unbelievable crowd in Tennessee. You guys are amazing. You really are. Love the Bolt fam. It was great to see Heather and Mary. I don't get to see them as much as I used to now that they live down in the Caribbean. But it was great to see them. Mike, I believe he called his wife Ethel. I think her name is Janine. Met them, and just a whole bunch of others. James, I met James, who told me we've been rapping on Instagram. So all of you that stop and say hi, I love it. I love talking with you all. It's my favorite part of the day. It truly is. Just when I get down on the field and do a lap, and so many of you want to talk Chargers football. I always appreciate that. So if it's something you want to do, feel free to yell at me, and I'm probably going to stop unless I got to get back up to the booth because I waited too long to get down on the field. So all of that. But it was an incredible crowd. There were more Charger fans there than Titan fans. Understandable, right? Chargers have been traveling really well. It's a destination city. It was Halloween weekend. Nashville was fantastic. And you get to see the Chargers get a win. So, to the people, Javi, money right back to you, Javi. Appreciate you. Modest Mouse, yes, that is that right there, signed by the band. I had a career in music before I got into sports. For those of you that don't know, this, by the way, I think I've pointed out, that's a playlist that was signed by the Beastie Boys from a show in Los Angeles with my backstage pass, and the label was nice enough to frame it for me from 2004 on September 13th. So there you go. Yeah. So signed by all the guys who, sadly, one of them is no longer with us. So that's what's behind me. We're cooked. I don't know, Leche. I think it's not so much cooked as you've got to adjust. You've got to. Herbert's going to have to move is going to have to move the pocket more, and he's going to have to use his legs. And that's, to me, just get him out of the pocket, man. With the amount of injuries that are coming in the pocket, get him out of there and keep him safe. Cheers, Roger, with my 0 alcohol beer that I'm not crazy about. I feel like I chose poorly on that front. Who are we going to get to fill those shoes, Roger? I think it's going to be what you're seeing, unless there's, again, who would have thought that Bobby Hart would have supplanted Trey Pipkins as the right tackle and played pretty well. So hopefully they can, continue to scout these players and do a darn good job of it and find some more, just like that. Hi, Matthew. Hi, right back to you. Mr. SVB or Mrs. VB12, love you too. All you guys. I'm going to go with Mrs. VB12 is who that was. Do you think they'll make a trade for no lineman? So Fish Taco, Danny, that's what we were talking about. They just don't get moved. Just because, offensive lines are so important to everything offense. It's just, we're pulling a tackle. I mean, we see it, right? Chargers are 4-0 with Joe Alt playing left tackle. They're 2-3 without him. Herbert's QBR changes by 40 points when Joe Alt's on the field and out. So, when you pull that player out, it just wrecks everything as you're trying to evaluate your quarterback, your running game, your wide receivers. So that's what makes it really hard to deal for an O-lineman, especially in season. It's not sober October. It has nothing to do with that. I did smell it. Yeah, it's, again, not great. The Guinness ones are really good. I'll say that. Feel like the meme with the dog sitting in the flaming house saying everything's fine. Nah, it's not that bad, coach. Again, defense gave up 6 points. and they're starting to fly around, and Oweh's really starting to come on. So when you got Mack and Thule out there, and then on passing downs, you kick Thule inside, you got Mack, Oweh, and Thule, like, that's formidable, man. And you're going to get Tarheeb back. This was a game without Justin Jefferson. So, I'm sorry, Justin. That would be something, wouldn't it? Man, without Tony Jefferson. So I think when you combine the front and the back end, and I think Daiyon, is starting to finally get healthy again. We're starting to see, we saw that Daiyon that we had not seen, especially in light of the circumstances. But 9 tackles, a sack, a tackle for loss. Like, that's what we're talking about. And remember, Daiyon just was not the same since he got really sick. So it could be another year like it was last year, where the defense just carried and the offense, with the lack of weapons and stuff, had to just do as much as they possibly could to eke this thing out. And with all these weapons, with Gadsden, with McConkey, in his second year, Trey Harris has turned into a really, really formidable weapon. Keenan Allen, like, you've got more available to you, even though the offensive line is still an issue. Keep the faith, looking sinewy. Why, thank you. I would say spindly, maybe. Need to put some more mass on these bones. Finally got to see the Bolts for the first time in person in my first NFL game. Right on, Christian. Glad you got out there. Moondoggies up where my daughter goes to slow. So whenever I go up there, I pop in there and chat with those folks. Not spending that. Well, yeah, Brandon, I don't know. So here's a tough one. I mean, normally I don't like to address these and get after personal attacks. But Brandon's taking a shot at Joe Ortiz, saying he didn't spend on O-line depth. Below average. You don't know what their motivation is, Brandon. So unless, I guess, you're speaking specifically to Becton, I don't know what his motivation is, what his level of commitment to football is. I don't know how injured he is. I'm not going to speak to that. I will say it is disappointing that he's not out there more. That's been unfortunate. I think you look at the other guards out there and centers. I know a lot of people wanted Ryan Kelly and Will Fries, and Fries has played okay. Ryan Kelly's been hurt all year. So I think if I had to guess, there's probably going to be some investment on that interior line this offseason. I would be floored if there wasn't. I don't know how you can call a guy a miser for making Rashawn Slater the highest paid tackle in football and using a number 5 overall pick on a tackle. That's investing in the offensive line. I think there's a lot of people in the organization that believe in Zion, that just, in anyone that's ever been around him and has stood next to him and talks to him, recognize how this has got to work. It's just got to. And then you go out, and I will say this, Mekhi Becton should be one of the greatest offensive linemen in the history of football. That's how talented that guy is and how good he is. He's incredible. The physical gifts that guy has, quite simply, no one else has ever had. So you try to unlock that, and unfortunately, it's been this injury thing. So I think going in, you probably felt pretty darn good about what you had. They didn't cut, to your attack, they would have cut Trey. They've been like, why are we paying a swing tackle $9 million? Let's get rid of him. Let's go find another receiver or something along those lines. But they recognized that how important that position was. You had Jamari Sawyer that played a whole season at left tackle at an okay, at a solid level. So you still had some stuff there. They go out and sign Andre James. It was a low money deal. But, look, it's got to be worked out. There's too many pressures. Herbert's getting hit too many times. There's too many quick pressures. So, that's stuff that's all got to be worked out. They're not doing it intentionally. They're not saying, hey, we're not going to spend any money on the offensive line. They only have $3 million left this season on the cap. So it's not like they were hoarding cash. Season over? No. Shadow looks like a Rams offensive lineman. That's funny. I can't see it. It's not working, so maybe it's gone now. Sit Herbert? No. 4 wins. That's exactly right. There you go. Any given take. Got to find 4 wins. Can you find 4? I think they can. I think they can find 4. When I look at it, and I'm not going to call out the teams individually, but as I look at it, yes, I can find 4 wins on here. I think it's imperative that going into the bye, I'd love for him to get both. I think both are absolutely attainable. We've seen really bad Pittsburgh for a chunk of this season. That defense has been absolutely gashed, especially on the back end. They played really, really well against the Colts. But, just kind of look at Pittsburgh's schedule and what they've done. Just don't think about the last game they played, which was their best of the year. They gave up 35 to Green Bay. They lost to Cincinnati 33. They barely eked out a win versus Minnesota. Seattle hammered them, and they allowed the Jets to score 32 on them. So, they, with all those turnovers and all those mistakes by Daniel Jones, they still gave up 20 points. Before that, 35. Like I said, 31, 32. Like, that defense has had some issues. And we could see Justin Herbert maybe exploit them. But it's not going to be easy with that front and with the offensive tackle situation. So, but yeah, I think what I was getting at is I think you got to have a split. I don't think you want to go into the bye at 6-5. I think at worst you want to be 7-4. So, and hopefully 8-3, and then you're going to feel pretty good coming out of a bye with some extra rest and maybe Amari and Hampton back against the Raiders. And then, of course, we know the closing stretch is pretty tough. Philly at home, at Kansas City, at Dallas, who struggle to play. Is that game over, by the way? I think it is. Or is it not? I forgot it was on. What am I missing here, folks? Sorry. Just trying to see what's... Oh, that was... Yeah, it went final. I'm going to see, what do we got here? Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Yeah, the Dallas defense just gave up 27 to Jacoby Brissett and a Cardinals team that, just got attacked through the media by Marvin Harrison Sr., and they were able to put up 27 on them. So, yeah, I think there's 4 out there. Tay. Blame Ortiz. Yeah, exactly. Voodoo. Azul. You got after it. I would love to see the Chargers doing much quicker passes, let their athletes running with the ball after catch. I think those are out there, Tom. I think the problem, what I notice in the games, is that it's the quick pressures up the middle that there's just nothing you can do with them. There were a couple where Foster just got beat, or in the past that Bradley's getting beat right off the snap. And when those are in Justin's lap, there's just very little you can do. When the pressure's coming from one edge, you can roll out. You can extend the play by moving to the opposite side when you see that pressure coming. So it's the quick pressures on the inside. It's the stunts that aren't getting picked up that have led to a lot of these issues and a lot of these hits. So I don't think they're not doing, like, perfect example in that Tennessee game, blitz comes and Kimani's got to know that he's the hot read. And he just took way too long. He's trying to juke his defender instead of just getting that inside leverage and knowing that ball's coming. And he could not get his head around. Like, his head wasn't even around in time, and Herbert's throwing that ball right in front of him, and he wasn't ready for it. So I think it's just little things like that coaches talked about, making sure you clean up. But I don't think, to me, I don't think that they're just kind of having him stand back. They're patting the ball for these, for these long developing routes to open up. I think there's still quite a few quick hitters in there that you're starting to see. We probably could see a little more, throws to the back and the flats, but those have not gone well either. It just always feels like there's a free defender coming after him. Tom, listened to the DJ call yesterday in Northern California. Thank you, Tom. Appreciate it. Shadow behind me looks hard. I'm still trying to figure that out. Got more of this. No. So here's the thing. Those two quarterbacks, 0 dark 30, are built completely differently. That's the thing about Herbert. Like when he was drafted, and what a lot of people that were pro Herbert were saying, like, Tua had an exceptional college career, but when you look at those two, one of them's built like a horse and is 6'6", 240 pounds. One of them isn't. Jaden Daniels is very slight. He's an athlete. He's a Ferrari, and Ferraris break down. Herbert is an F-150. That's just the way that their physical build. Jaden is very narrow-shouldered, and Herbert is not. So I think that many hits, yes, it can take a toll. But he's also a guy that is able to take all those hits, at least able to take more of those hits than a lot of, if not every quarterback in the league. Okay, people are excited about the Patriots, as they should be. I'm a big Drake May guy, and yeah, team's playing great. We should call our QB sneak the power surge. That's pretty good. Power surge. It just seems, I don't know. Just seems like we work too hard on that. Does that make sense? Like, oh, isn't this cute? It's the power surge. It's the tush push. It's the, I don't know, I'm just an old man, I guess, man. It's just a QB sneak. But whatever, keep it coming, man. I appreciate that. Voodoo Azul. If that's yours, I like it. Jay Fitters, if I played left tackle, I would be dead. I'd be like, I would get killed. I weigh less than one of their legs. Next guy up, exactly right. That's right, yeah. I don't know what's going on with Becton, Vix. I just know that, again, when I go through, let's see, let's get it all. Let's see what he has played. So Becton has played 212 of the 401 snaps. So that is divided by 401. Yeah, 53% is what he has played. Oh, no, that's just pass blocking. Sorry, because I was like, that doesn't seem right. So he has played out of 616 snaps. Yeah, same thing, 51%. Half of them. I don't know. I think he's someone who his whole career has had issues with injuries. He's had knee, finger, all that sort of stuff. So hopefully, coach said he was going to be back at practice. That would go a long way for making this offensive line a lot better if you can get him out there. I don't think Tunsil's going to get traded because he's going to want a new, that they just traded for him, and he's going to get paid a boatload. And Rashawn Slater is already making a bunch, and Joe Ortiz is obviously going into year 3, and will get his 5th-year option picked up and become the highest-paid tackle in football and all that. So it's just not necessarily trade Trey Lance to New Orleans. I don't know if they'd want to do that, Coach Oak, just because I think they're going to want to evaluate Tyler Shuck. He's a second-round pick for the rest of the season, figure out if he's their long-term answer, if they've got to draft a quarterback this year. So I don't think Trey Lance showed you enough that would lead someone to give you anything like, would they trade? And the problem is, like, if you were talking about, we'll trade Trey Lance for Cesar Ruiz or something along that, yeah, then you got to take on all that money, and that's something that they'd have to figure out. It's interesting, though. It's an interesting idea. Like, player for player, could you find value from a team that would be able to move on from that? Let's see. Brandon's coming back at me about the O-line. Slater got hurt and still did nothing. Well, that's like, you can't. That's what I was saying, though, Brandon. You just don't get tackles. Like, offensive tackles don't get traded. I mean, look at the Texans moved Tunsil because for whatever reason, they decided they needed to remake that whole offensive line room. They weren't happy with the chemistry of it. The Commanders traded Trent Williams because he basically told them, I'm not playing here anymore. I don't want to play for this organization, and wouldn't sign any of the deals they put in front of him. But outside of that, like, tackles don't get traded. So and the day before, they had just signed him to, a $90 million in guaranteed contract. And they had Joe Alt to move there. And when Joe Alt was there and the line was intact, again, 4-0, and he was playing like the best left tackle in football. And so you kind of go out and you find You have Trey Pipkins, and look what they did with, again, I know it was only 2 games, but Bobby was playing well at right tackle. So, and I will not say that it's a weak O-line staff. Nick Hardwick's going to be a head coach one day. He's tremendous. I just respectfully, I disagree. Address the center. There's a lot of that. Nashville was fun. Lots of love to Daiyon. Yeah, seeing Alt go down was tough. That pretty much sums it up. Yeah, love the Daiyon. Alt going down. I should confess too. I thought it was a dirty play by Sebastian Joseph Day, and I was wrong. I was cursing that guy left and right because the angle we had didn't show Trey shove him. So I assumed that it was just a dirty play. So my apologies, Sebastian Joseph Day. I know things weren't peachy between you and the Chargers, but I should not have cursed your name as much as I did, because I did a lot to anybody that was in earshot and would listen to me talk about bad things. So, but it wasn't. He got shoved into him. Joe kind of had lost his rep a little bit to DreMont Joens and was on skates, which we normally don't see. And then Trey just got beat, and he was trying to recover. Herbert had already climbed the pocket. And then, for whatever reason, I hate reliving. It was an absolute nightmare. Let's see. Shadow's doing the it's because I have a fan on. That's what it is. So the fan is on in my office here. So that's why it's flickering. Gotcha. As soon as you open that 0% cell, it popped out like a genie. That's funny. What else we got here? Nothing was being done prior to Alt injury and after Slater's. Yeah, again, I think that's just it, guys. It's you can't. You need 2 teams to do those deals, and you've got to, you're going to want to find somebody that's worth giving up a valuable draft pick for. They're not just going to trade. You're not going to get a good offensive lineman, especially a tackle. I mean, Laramie Tunsil was traded the first time for 2 ones, so it's like you're talking about a day 2 pick for a legitimate tackle. Went to the event at Cosm. First time in a couple of years I didn't listen to your radio call with TV on mute. You guys are awesome. Seriously, thank you, Curly. Appreciate that. Yeah, I bet the Cosm stuff was really cool. Game of the best Charger turnout for a road game I've ever been to. Chargers 6-0, and I watched them in person. Well, we all got to get a little pool together for Fish Taco Danny and get him to all these games. Jackson Powers Johnson. Yeah, I just don't see the Raiders doing that. I can't. Wasn't he a 2? I think he was a high 2, right? That seems. I feel like Jackson Powers Johnson was a high 2, if I remember right. And I just don't know. Yeah, it's just a 2 last year. That seems like they're going to want at least a 2, and I think you're better off just going into the draft. I think they're looking for the Kevin Zeitler type. Can we send you our 6 and you give us your 7 kind of thing? That's what you're looking for. And the other player that I believe they've been in discussions with, the team wants, for what the player is and the contract the player is on, the asking price is incredibly high. Incredibly high for someone that is his age with his contract. So I know they're trying. I shouldn't say that. I think they're trying. A bunch of linemen trading back, right move. Exactly. That's my whole thing. It's like centers, guards. You can find if you can get out of your 1 and pick up, a 2 and a 3, and now you go out there with 2 2s, 2 3s for those 4 picks. That's opportunity right there. Dodgers, yeah, very excited about that, Ricky. Great seeing you yesterday. Money, yes, exactly. So that would be, I don't even know. That's probably a nickname. Walk Tab. It's great to see all the people. I had a lot of conversations on Sunday, yesterday. I feel like I've got home so late with the daylight saving, and I got up early to go out. So great games Sunday. Let's get a W Sunday night. Need Josh Harris back. You ain't kidding, coach. And I think we're going to get him. I'm hoping that he's back out there, man. Whew. That's been rough. Any other lineman in history ever come back from the injury like Slater has had? It's a bad one. But I think, as medicine progresses, players train as hard as they do. Their bodies are just, it feels like they're different. So it's a rough injury, but not that I know Rashawn that great, but I know him well enough to know the kind of work that guy puts in, how important football is to him, that he is going to attack the rehab with an enthusiasm unknown to mankind. And I would not bet against him. He is an exceptionally hard worker, an incredibly smart guy, and truly loves football, loves absolutely dominating and punishing his opponent. He's one of those guys. So that's why I believe that he'll be okay. Like nobody could stay upright on punt coverage. Yeah, the coverage units need some help. There's no doubt on that one. I was hoping that Dean Leonard was going to be back. What's up, you boy, LK? A big hey to you as well. I think for special teams and the punt return, multiple punt returns that were, and kick returns that got a lot of, look, they just got to, I think Coach said it best, got to clean it up, man. It's everything. Cameron Dicker booting the ball out of bounds and the ball goes to the 40 for an end of the half field goal. Like there's that field goal attempt. Stuff's got to get cleaned up. So, and I don't know what the answer is. I'm yawning. Sorry, everybody. I apologize. That was unnecessary. Vasse, thoughts on special teams? Yeah, there we go. Personnel. Yeah, I think you look at special teams and like every team's got sort of a different approach. Should they put more corners out there? We brought it up with Kamani Vidal when he joined us and said kind of, what do you, and he even said that. He's like, yeah, it's kind of funny. You look at some other teams and you just see them out there with a bunch of secondary guys. So Ryan Ficken's a great coach and I'm sure he'll get it figured out. Right now they're out there with two defensive ends with the boy B and Thule. So we'll see. A lot more O-line, make a trade. Alt stay in LA for his recovery. That I don't know. I think it just depends on what the team wants them to do. So I think I would assume that Joe wants to be around his teammates. Yeah, I think that's a good question. How do you compete with this Steelers front with their O-line? It's going to be the battle of the day, right? And again, I think it's also on the opposite side. What kind of pressure can Khalil, Owe, and Thule put on Aaron Rodgers? Aaron Rodgers has been sacked 15 times so far. This year he's thrown 5 picks, so not a lot of sacks when you consider Justin's been sacked 28 times. So there's that. All right, keep going. Liking the more physical runs from Herbert. You and me both, Roger. There's another power surge. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe that's catching on. Is that what's happening? Is that catching on? Matlock, the key on sneaks. You can see the movement as soon as he gets his hands on Herbert. Yeah, it's nice having him back there. Trey Harris, by the way, is back there. I love Trey Harris. I think he's going to be a hell of a player, man. I really do. I just think he does so many things well, and he's just such a cerebral player. And you can see that, right? A former quarterback. When you hear him talk about football, he talks like a quarterback. So I think you just have someone that sees things that a lot of other players don't, can see those creases, can see the protections. And he does such a good job back there with Herbert. But yeah, having a 300-pound defensive tackle behind you helps a little bit as well. I don't even know what that is. Yeah, Thrust and Justin is pretty great. Thank you, Heather and Mary. It's terrible. Let's see. Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's been a tough year again for injuries. What else we got here? Heard the Titans fans were cheering for Bozeman. Oh. Oh, people taking a shot at Ben Herbert for the injuries. Yeah, I mean, that's just, you got D lineman. It was so bad in the pocket, man. Again, it was Trey just shoving Sebastian Joseph Day right into Joe Alt, who was kind of deep on his set with DreMont Joens, and it just sucks. Injury bug. It's one of the worst years for injuries. There's no doubt about that. What else we got? Great concentration from Q. Over the shoulder catch was insane. There we go. QB sneak power surge. A lot of power surge. Throwing Ronnie. Definitely. A lot of people defending Herb. I'll let you guys do that. Disley is behind. I get that sense, Zach. I think with the emergence of Orande and how good of a blocker that Fisk has been this year, that they just kind of like that pair better. I thought Nico was good. They didn't really throw at him. He didn't really have to do much, but I remember seeing a few of his routes, and I thought he mirrored really well and, covered pretty well. So yeah, I thought he was fine. Let me see what his totals were. I would say he probably had 14. I was going to say 12 or so. Is what I had figured. But yeah, I mean, I thought he was fine. In zone coverage, like you said, there wasn't really much there. What did he end up with? Yeah, he didn't make it. Yeah, he made one tackle. So there you go. Got a tackle. Stella, exactly. Almost done too. Update on Josh Harris, I mentioned. I think he's going to be back. They said he'll probably be out there. Trade Conklin for an O-lineman, yeah. If a team needs a tight end, obviously Tyler has not been in there since the emergence of Orande. Bolt fan, a lot of Bolt fans, a lot of people calling out or saying hello to Heather and Mary. It was great to see them. Do you think we'll get anyone before the trade deadline? I feel like okay. So here we go. Petros and Money, appreciate that, sir. Happy to see you. Shout out my baby girl. Oh, I lost you there for a second. Solana, wearing her number 10 Herbert jersey. Love from North County SD. Appreciate you, Jay. I love North County. O-line looking for Steelers, not looking good, King. But you got a whole week to game plan. It's over, but we're going to go through the rest of this real quick. It's going to be a challenge. And it'll be up to Greg Roman to design some counters to all that pass rush, because there's a lot. Jonah 1980, hello to you. Low Neal Hall of Fame, Bill. We are shopping in the same aisle for that one. Chances of signing someone by deadline. Like I said, I think the trade deadline tomorrow, I would assume they'll add somebody. I'd be very surprised if they didn't. I just don't think about like high level starting O-lineman. It's very, you might be able, like I said, I think Zeitler is maybe the only guy, depending on what the Titans want to do. I just should probably keep it open just in case anybody does anything here. Nothing yet. Let's see. Bobby Hart, nice surprise. Yeah, I feel like that's a pretty serious injury. Line sufficient. Herbert hero games. Yeah, I think you're going to be looking for Herbert hero games. What's happening in Montreal? Donald, appreciate you. Thank you. I love Montreal, by the way. Burlington, Maine, Montreal, big fans. Burlington, Vermont. I'm sorry. Portland, Maine. That's what I was thinking of when I was in my music business days. I used to have to call on WBTZ in Burlington, Vermont. Charger fans, how we feel about the Dodgers. Shout out on the Charger. Yeah, look, I get it. But I've said this before, Jay. It's not a two-way street, right? Padre fans hate the Dodgers. For me, as a Dodger fan, I love San Diego. I love Petco Park. Padres are, I guess I'm just one of the people like I wouldn't care. If the Padres won a World Series, I'd be happy for San Diego because I love the city. Mourning the Blue Jays loss. Yeah, sorry, Donald. It was a heck of a series, though. Yeah, it is concerning. It's not just T.J. Watt either. It's that entire front. That entire front is a nightmare. But they just had not been playing well up until really this week. So maybe they can go back to their old. What did I do in music? I was a music director at a radio station here in Los Angeles called K-Rock, and I was a promotions person for a couple different labels. DreamWorks, and I promoted records at DreamWorks, and I promoted records at Slash, at Mowax, at FFRR, at London. So yeah, that's what I did. Would love to see you in Jacksonville, Pokerman, maybe out in the water if those storms hold up and we get some tasty waves. Always recruitment payoff. We're going to find out. I'm hoping that it does. Too many Madden GMs with salary cap. Yeah. Smart not to overspend on what was available. Let's see. What else do we got? I think we're pretty much coming to the end, right? How much farther down do I have to go? Oh, wow. Wow, we got a lot of comments. All right, let's go backwards. Ready? I did not do the Shrek. I don't think we ever worked the Shrek soundtrack. I don't think I did personally. Trying to remember. Soundtracks I worked were Grosse Pointe Blank, which I had up here for a while. Yeah, just an alternative. What else did I have? I'm trying to think if I had any other soundtracks. Kids. I did the Kids soundtrack with the Folk Complosion song on there. Natural One. That was a good one. I did the basketball. How about this? I did the Basketball Diary soundtrack. And Leo DiCaprio was just like rolling around to radio stations by himself. No handlers. Just kind of doing the interviews on the Basketball Diaries. So that was kind of cool. We had a song on there called People Who Died. So there was that. Jared of the Eagles. Let's see what else we got. Greensboro, North Carolina here. What's up there? Greensboro. Love North Carolina. Kind of know the governor a little bit. Met him a few times. Had a few beers with him. Can I be at the Cowboy game? What time should I get into the stadium to try to meet you? I usually go down there. I'm usually down there like hour and a half before the game. From like an hour and a half to a half hour before the game is when I'll be down on the field. I have not been hitting the gym. I just kind of hang out in the water a lot. So that's arms are just from paddling. That's all. It's probably just the lighting too. Brendan, huge Charger fan. Appreciate that, Brendan. I'm a fan of yours. Hopefully we'll meet up. Thanks for signing my guitar. Absolutely. Let's see. What was up with security not letting players, coaches say hi to fans on the route of the buses? Cam said hi and signed a card and then had to go back in. I'm not sure. I remember it was raining, and I felt like I was running late. That's why I didn't stop to say hi to anybody, because my daughter was running the marathon, so I was just kind of watching her, and I had a conversation with her, and then I looked down, and I was like, oh, no, everybody's gone. And so I was just kind of hauling butt to get on the buses. Let's see. Thoughts on the trade targets you're hearing about? Not really. Let me see what else we got here. Any updates on Hampton? Yeah, Coach said after bye. Hey, Jen. Great to see you. Miss you guys, too. Sacked 28 times is wild. Yeah. Thoughts on Minner? I think he's doing great. Defense gave up 6 points. So, and you saw what they did to the Vikings last week, and I'm hoping they're kind of in that rhythm, and they're starting to hit that rhythm. And I think Oweh's been a huge addition. And again, like I said, I look at that line and I see that Thule, Khalil Mack, Oweh, three-man combination, and I think it's just been so good. And I think he's been a big boost. So as they continue to get healthy, get Tarheeb back out there, I got faith in that unit. Killer top story today. Oh, thanks, man. Yeah, it's crazy for people saying the Dodgers are in baseball. They saved baseball. There's no other way to put it. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they do next year with Alt and Slater and how they want to do that God of Thunder podcast. Because I do think Alt is, when he's healthy, he's the best left tackle in football. But I also think that Rashawn Slater is one of the 3 best left tackles in football, so I don't think you can go wrong. Let's see. Love you, Sol Colors. Appreciate that. My name is Bandar. There we go. Bandar is first down runs are too predictable. Run outside. I like the outside runs, although I thought Jaret Patterson ran really well between the tackles. So, I don't know about predictable. They've been throwing a lot on first down, and I think it's been very effective throwing on first down. But again, you're talking about a running back who started the season on the practice squad, a running back who started the season off the practice squad, then was signed to the practice squad, and then a running back who did not get any reps in Amar Johnson that was just signed to the practice squad. It's not Amari and Hampton and Najee Harris, which would look dramatically different between the tackles. So I think it's always kind of important to remember and to keep into context what they're playing with right now. Like it was Najee Harris and Amari and Hampton, and it is now Kimani Vidal and Jaret Patterson and Amar Johnson. Always have a chance by coming at a decent time. You read about that. All right, I think that's going to do it, dude. I did hit the water today, cashed the one and only, and it was awesome. Ended up staying out there for like 2.5 hours. Cracked my foot on a wave that I got absolutely wrecked on because it was kind of pumping. Does alt going out mean more? Right, I don't know what that means. I'm sorry, Crowder. I can't decipher that. Let's see. Oh, was my daughter in here? Is that who you were talking to, Heather and Mary? What was it like meeting? I did not meet Noel. Did I meet Noel? And yeah, dude, he wouldn't be the only one, and he wasn't one. I didn't get the sense, but I worked with plenty of those people. Had to provide for those people, as a matter of fact. That's Preston, but she's amazing. I agree. Oh, there's Parker. Hi, Parker. Talking about my other daughter, Preston, who plays music. Hi, Parker. Miss you. Love you, too. First live for Jabriel Wilson. What's up, Jabriel? Welcome. Bobby, I don't think is coming back anytime soon. All right, I feel like I already saw these. Faith in the Chargers with the O-line. Keys for success against Pitt. Like I said, Bondar, I think it's defensively. You know, put some punishment on them and see if you can keep this thing under. Can you keep them under 20 points? That to me, I think, is the key. And then I think this offense can do enough damage. Titans went 1 of 9 on third down. Who's covering DK? Interesting, Eric. Probably Cam Hart. You want that physical. You kind of want the more physical corner out there trying to rough him up, would be my guess. All right, I think that's going to do it, guys. I feel like I put in like an hour, right? So thanks all for joining. Sorry it was a day late. And, yeah, nice job on CBS. Oh, yeah, that was a fun one. Chris and I were walking with Danny down Broadway. How do they match up against the Broncos? Eric, not until week 18. That's how they match up. So let's kind of keep that off in the distance. All right, I think that's going to do it. Appreciate everybody. Oh yeah, see, look, it says I only got 155 remaining. So we'll end it on that. Appreciate y'all. I'll be doing the pod with Lo on Wednesday, the pod with Chris and Jaleel on Thursday, and back out at 5:20 p.m. Kickoff against the Steelers on Sunday. So thanks everybody. Bolt up. Appreciate y'all.